On the first day of school, as soon as the luxury car came to a stop, my cousin who was staying at my house pointed at my nose and scolded me in public. "Wake up, don't think riding in a Maybach once makes you superior. You're just a poor relative mooching off my family. Stop pretending to be a rich heiress with my family's things." In my past life, she publicly stole my identity like this, manipulated public opinion to cyberbully me, and even had thugs corner me, leading to my tragic death on the streets. Reborn, I slapped her twice across the face without hesitation. "How dare a parasite like you bark? Check whether the car owner's last name is Gearshin." The classmates watching on the side all raised their phones. "Wow, Jili's family is this rich. Then Shinshi always acts like a spoiled princess. I heard her dad is G family's driver, her mom's their maid. The whole family lives off the G family and still dares to bite the hand that feeds them." My cousin's face turned pale as I sneered and stepped closer. "I forgot to mention, starting today, your whole family is kicked out of my villa. Oh, and that Chanel you're wearing, was it bought with my mom's credit card too? Take it off." Chapter 1. A crisp, sharp slap echoed through the grand entrance of Sacred Cherry High School, instantly silencing all the noise. Shinshi clutched her face, staring at me in disbelief. "Jili, you dare hit me?" she shrieked, her voice distorted with shock and fury. The students who were just pointing fingers at us looked at me, then at Shinshi with her red, swollen cheek, and slightly disheveled hair. Finally, their gazes landed on the sleek, imposing black Maybach, their eyes filled with immense confusion and an overwhelming urge for gossip. I shook my slightly numb hand and sneered. "I'll slap you whenever I want. Do I need to pick a date, Shinshi? You're living under someone else's roof, riding in someone else's car, wearing clothes bought by someone else's mom, and yet you dare point fingers and spout nonsense. Who gave you the audacity? Was it Stephanie's son? You're talking nonsense." Shinshi, like a cat with its tail stepped on, completely lost her temper and abandoned her usual hypocritical innocent flower act. "This is clearly my family's car. You're the one shamelessly living off us, spending our money. Your parents begged my dad on their knees, and we reluctantly took you in. Here we go again." Exactly the same words as in my past life. Not even the tone had changed. Hearing these words, scenes from my past life uncontrollably flooded my mind. It was right at the school gate, humiliated by her in public like this. I couldn't defend myself, nailed to the pillar of shame by the public opinion she orchestrated, vain and materialistic, ungrateful and heartless. What followed was a year-long ordeal of school bullying, being isolated, slandered, finding dead mice stuffed in my backpack, textbooks torn to shreds, getting cornered by thugs on the street. Finally, in that dim alley, beaten to within an inch of my life by the scum she had hired, I heard her laughing on the phone just before I died. "Mom, it's done. Everything from the G family will be ours from now on. Fortunately, I've come back. In this life, it's their turn, the mother and daughter, to despair and burn in hell." I took a step forward, closing in on Shinshi, my gaze as cold as a blade. "Your family's car, Shinshi. Couldn't you at least draft a lie beforehand, or, better yet, check the vehicle registration records, see whether this Maybach bears the name Gearshin?" Sure enough, these words caused an uproar. "What's going on? The car belongs to Jili's family. That can't be right. Shinshi always dresses and uses expensive stuff. Everyone says her family is quite wealthy, but Jili seems so confident. And slapping someone that hard doesn't look like the behavior of someone with a guilty conscience." Quick, look at the campus forum. Someone posted a photo of a vehicle registration. The owner's surname is Ji Mingshu. That's Jili's mother's name, someone shouted, and the crowd instantly erupted into chaos, everyone lowering their heads to check their phones. Shinshi's face turned deathly pale in an instant, her eyes darting around nervously, her lips trembling as she tried to maintain her composure. "So what? Your mom must have lent it to my family. My family has helped yours so much. What's the big deal about using a car, lent?" I scoffed, the mockery in my laughter unmistakable. "Shinshi, your father is just a driver for my family's company, your mother is our housekeeper, and your whole family lives in our villa. What, after a few years, you really think you're the owners now, starting to dream of stealing someone else's nest?" The amount of information in this statement is overwhelming. Like a bomb dropped into a crowd, a driver, a nanny. Is this for real? Wow. So Shinshi is actually the one living under someone else's roof. She always acts like a spoiled rich girl. Who knew she was actually the nanny's daughter? No wonder Jili hit her. Who wouldn't be angry in this situation, being called a poor relative by the daughter of a nanny? This is just shameless. Public opinion instantly reversed. Those who might have sympathized with Shinshi earlier, or were just watching for entertainment, now looked at her with contempt, shock, and a sense of betrayed anger. Sacred Cherry Academy is an elite school that values family background above all else. The daughter of a nanny impersonating a young lady from a wealthy family and acting so arrogantly has truly provoked public outrage. Shin trembled under the weight of these stares, likely never having suffered such humiliation before. Pointing at me in a rage, she shouted, "Ji, you're slandering me. My parents are partners with the Ji family, we're relatives. I leisurely pulled out my phone from my backpack and played a recording. This was a precaution I had deliberately taken before leaving home this morning. The mistakes I made in my past life, I won't repeat them in this one. The phone clearly transmitted the shrill voice of Shinshui's mother. "My dear Aunt Wang Fangru, be sharp when you get to school. If that dead girl from the Ji family dares to disobey, humiliate her in public. Anyway, her mother is abroad. And her useless father listens to everything we say. As long as we establish her image as a poor relative who's still vain, everything from the Ji family will slowly become ours. Your father drove for the Ji family for over 10 years, and I served their entire family. This is what they owe us." The recording wasn't long, but it was explosive with information. The school gate fell completely silent, leaving only the greedy and venomous voice of Wang Fangru echoing from the recording. Everyone's expressions looked as if they'd been struck by lightning. Shinshui's face turned from deathly pale to ashen, her entire body seeming to have had its bones sucked out as she staggered, nearly collapsing. She stared at me in horror. As if seeing me for the first time, I put away my phone and looked at her coldly. "Did you hear that? This is the truth. A whole family of leeches clinging to us through flattery, deception, and parasitism." My gaze swept over her brand new Chanel dress from the latest season, and a cruel smirk curled at the corner of my lips. "By the way, Shinshui, if I remember correctly, this dress you're wearing, along with that limited edition bag of yours, were all bought using my mother's supplementary card. Weren't they, using your master's money to dress yourself up like a respectable person, only to turn around and bite the hand that feeds you? Your family's values are truly eye-opening." I paused, then enunciated clearly under everyone's astonished gazes, word by word. "Now, get off my family's car, and take off everything you bought with my mother's money. The Ji family doesn't raise ungrateful snakes." The words "take off" struck Shinshui's heart like a sledgehammer, sending shockwaves through the nerves of everyone present, making her strip publicly. This humiliation was 10 times crueler than those 2 slaps. Shinshui abruptly raised her head, her eyes dripping with venomous resentment. "Ji, don't push people too far. Going too far." I laughed, a cold laugh filled with endless mockery. "Compared to you and your daughter plotting to take my life and seize my family's wealth, what does this too far even amount to?" I no longer looked at her twisted face. Turning away instead, my gaze swept over the crowd around us, their phones raised, expressions varied. I knew today's events would spread through Sacred Sakura High School, and even the entire social circle, at the speed of light. Straightening my back, I ignored Shinshui's hysterical cries and the chaotic murmurs behind me, walking with composed steps toward the school building. First step, accomplished. Next, it's time for that pair of parents who stole another's nest, and that utterly biased phoenix man of a father, my dear father, Shin Hongyuan. Isn't he currently being sweet-talked into a daze by his gentle and virtuous sister-in-law, gearing up to come and demand an explanation? I'm actually quite looking forward to it. Chapter 2. I had just stepped into the school building, barely able to savor the reality of rebirth, when my dad's call came crashing in. That was quick. I don't even need to pick up to know what he's going to say. It's nothing more than Shinshui playing the victim first, crying her crocodile tears, while my dad, who can never tell right from wrong, will inevitably feel sorry for his poor niece again. In my past life, it was exactly like this. Every time Shinshui and I clash, regardless of who's at fault, I'm always the one who gets scolded. He always says, "Lily, you're the hostess, and she is the guest, you should give in to her a little. Her parents have done so much for our family, we mustn't be ungrateful." Screw ungrateful, their whole family is sucking the blood of our G family and still wants our lives. I took a deep breath, pressed the answer button, and before I could even bring it to my ear, Shin Hongyuan's furious roar exploded. "Ji, you ungrateful wretch, what did you do to Shi? How dare you hit her at the school gate, and make her take off her clothes? Have you no decency at all? Get your ass to the principal's office right now and apologize, or I'll break your legs." The sound was so loud that even passing classmates turned to look. Their expressions varied. With an impassive face, I moved the phone slightly away from my ear, waiting for him to finish shouting. I spoke in a calm, almost mocking tone. "Dad," shouting so loudly, "aren't you afraid you'll scare your precious niece?" There was a sudden silence on the other end of the line, clearly caught off guard by my reaction. "You, stop being so sarcastic. Now, immediately get to the principal's office and kneel down to apologize to Shi." Shin Hongyuan's anger flared even hotter, though his confidence seemed somewhat diminished. "Kneel and apologize." I let out a light laugh. Dad, you've got the wrong person. The ones who should kneel and apologize are Shinshi, that imposter, and her pair of parasitic parents. What nonsense are you spouting? What imposter? What parasites? They're your uncle and aunt. They're our family's benefactors. Benefactors. My tone turned icy. Benefactors who scheme to kill me off so they can seize our G family's fortune. Benefactors who encourage their daughter to slander me at the school gates, trying to ruin my reputation. Dad, wake up. That whole family are leeches clinging to us. They've sucked us dry and now they're trying to devour us whole. You, where did you hear such outrageous lies? Has your mother been filling your head with nonsense again? Shin Hongyuen's voice carried disbelief and a barely detectable trace of panic. Don't bring my mother into this, I sharply cut him off. My mother is working hard abroad to build her career, earning money to support this family, and your entire G family of leeches. And what about you? What have you been doing at home? Letting yourself be fooled by a maid, allowing her daughter to walk all over me. Shin Hongyuan, do you even remember your own surname? Do you remember that I'm your own flesh and blood? The last few sentences were practically shouted. As the grievances and anger bottled up over 2 lifetimes surged forth in that moment, the other end of the phone fell completely silent, leaving only heavy breathing. I knew I had hit a nerve, the fragile ego of a social climber and the long-simmering resentment of being overshadowed by his wife. These were his most sensitive spots. After a long silence, Shin Hongyuan finally seemed to find his voice again, feigning anger. You've gone too far. How dare you speak to me like that? Come here right now. Otherwise I'll freeze all your cards. Look, the same old trick again. In my past life, he used financial control to force me to bow down to Shinshi time and time again. Too bad, times have changed. Freeze my cards, I sneered. Dad, have you forgotten? My supplementary card and primary card are both linked to Mom's account. Can you even freeze them? As for the measly allowance you give me every month, I paused, my tone dripping with disdain. It's not even enough to buy one sleeve of that Chanel dress Shinshi is wearing, is it? Keep it, use it to pamper your benefactor's family. After speaking, I didn't give him another chance to roar and directly hung up the phone, promptly adding his number to the blacklist. In my past life, I cared too much about that pitiful paternal love and was too eager to maintain superficial harmony, which led me step by step into desperation. In this life, I refuse it, these hypocritical emotions. These malicious relatives, I reject them all. I will reclaim everything that belongs to me, the dignity and status that the eldest daughter of the G family deserves. I put away my phone and looked up, just meeting the shocked and complicated gazes of several classmates. Clearly, they had overheard quite a bit of my phone call. I curled my lips indifferently and walked straight toward the classroom of Class 1, Grade 10, Chapter 3. The moment I stepped into the classroom, the previously noisy space instantly fell silent. All eyes, whether overt or covert, curious or disdainful, were fixed squarely on me. Clearly, the spectacle at the school gate had spread through the entire grade at lightning speed. Without glancing sideways, I walked to my seat, the second to last row by the window. This spot had a good view and was quiet, my favorite corner in my past life. But later, Shinshi and her clique forcibly took it over, banishing me to the last row next to the trash can. In this life, no one will lay a finger on the seat. As soon as I sat down, a fashionable girl from the front row, who was usually inseparable from Shinshi, turned around with exaggerated surprise and undisguised malice. Oh, if it isn't our Miss G. Heard you were quite the hero at the school gate earlier, daring to hit Shi. What, did you really think riding in a Maybach once makes you better than everyone else? Her name is Lin Shushu, and her family is somewhat well off. She has always been Shinshi's #1 lackey. In my past life, she helped Shinshi bully me countless times. I raised my eyes and gave her a cold glance. Lin Shushu, when the master is speaking, dogs shouldn't interrupt. Lin Shushu's face flushed crimson. Who are you calling a dog? Whoever responds is one, I said calmly, yet with an undeniable air of authority. Also, let me correct you, it's not just riding in a Maybach once, that car belongs to my family, and I am its owner. As for Shinshi, I deliberately paused, successfully capturing the attention of the entire class. She's just staying at my house as a guest, her father is our family's driver, and her mother is our maid. How dare the daughter of a maid raise her voice at me? Hitting her was just teaching her some manners. Wow, the classroom erupted in uproar. Although the news had already spread, hearing me announce it personally in the classroom still had a shocking impact. Oh my god, it's actually true. Shinshi always acts so high profile. Who would have thought her family wasn't that impressive? The daughter of a driver and a nanny, then how does she afford all those designer brands? No wonder Jijili lost her temper. I wouldn't be able to tolerate it either. Lin Shushu was left speechless by my words, her face turning pale and then flushed. She clearly hadn't expected me to be so blunt and merciless. After struggling for a long time, she finally retorted weakly, "Why, you're lying. She isn't that kind of person. You're just jealous of her." Jealous? I laughed as if I'd heard the biggest joke of my life. Jealous of a parasite. Jealous that she has to steal my clothes and swipe my mom's credit card to keep up appearances. Lin Shushu, if you're going to suck up to someone, at least use your brain, otherwise, you'll end up kissing the wrong ass and getting yourself into trouble. You. Lin Shushu trembled with anger but couldn't utter a word. Just then, a commotion arose at the classroom door. Shinshi walked in, head lowered and eyes swollen. Surrounded by a group of girls, she had changed into ordinary sportswear. And the bright red slap mark on her face hadn't completely faded yet. She looked pitifully fragile, a stark contrast to her previously arrogant and domineering self. As soon as she entered, she cast a resentful glance at me before quickly lowering her head again, her shoulders trembling slightly as if struggling to suppress her grievances. Oh, what great acting skills. What a shame not to become an actress. Sure enough. Her demeanor immediately won sympathy from some people. Shui, are you okay? Lin Shushu rushed over and asked with concern, "Shushu, I'm fine." Shinshi's voice choked with sobs. "Don't blame Jili, she might have misunderstood me. This again, just like in my past life, she always plays the victim, making me look arrogant and unreasonable." Misunderstanding? What kind of misunderstanding could justify her hitting so hard? Lin Shushu glared at me indignantly. Jili, you must apologize to Shui." Apologize? I stood up and walked step by step toward Shinshi. My gaze was icy, carrying overwhelming pressure. Shinshi instinctively took a step back, a flicker of fear flashing in her eyes. "Shinshi," I stopped in front of her, my voice low but loud enough for the whole class to hear. "Should I play this morning's recording again for everyone, so they can hear how your mother coached you and plotted to seize my family's assets?" Shinshi's face instantly turned as pale as paper, her body swaying unsteadily. You're lying. That's fabricated. "Then let your mother come and confront me." I took a step closer, my tone icy. "Or, shall we go to the property management right now and check the surveillance footage, see who's been entering and leaving my family's villa like they own the place, and who's been trailing behind my dad like a lapdog, driver, benefactor." Don't make me laugh. I scanned the classroom, my gaze sharp. "Today, I'll make this clear. Jili, am the rightful heiress of the Ji family. Shinshi and her family are nothing more than hired help, a driver and a maid, living in our house out of charity. I used to be kind and let it slide, but from today onward, if anyone still can't tell who's who and dares to bark at me alongside certain strays." I deliberately let my gaze linger on Lin Shushu's face for a moment, startling her into trembling. "Then don't blame me for being impolite. Jili isn't someone you want to mess with that." I stopped looking at Shinshi's pale face in the silent crowd, turning back to my seat. The classroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was stunned by my merciless, information-packed words. The way they looked at me completely changed, from previous doubts, amusement, to shock, wariness, and even a trace of awe. I knew the purpose of establishing authority had been achieved, at least outwardly, for a short period. No one would dare to provoke me lightly. Shinshi bit her lip hard, her nails digging deep into her palms. She stared at Jili, who sat by the window with her back straight, exuding an icy and formidable aura, feeling an unprecedented surge of panic and resentment. How had this spoiled young lady suddenly become like a completely different person? No, she absolutely couldn't let her turn things around. Otherwise, everything their family had schemed for all these years would be ruined. Jili, you must be utterly disgraced. You must disappear. A venomous glint flashed through Shinshi's eyes. Chapter 4. The first class was math, with the teacher lecturing animatedly while most students below were distracted. The faint glow of phone screens flickered incessantly beneath the desks. The campus form of Sacred Sakura High School has completely exploded. The top pin posts have increasingly sensational titles: breaking news, shocking scoop, school beauty, Shinshi's true identity revealed as Maid's daughter. Cuckoo occupying the nest while biting the real heiress, includes hard evidence recording. Listen how the maid and her daughter plotted to seize the host family's fortune. Mind-blowing. Video evidence. Jili dominates fake heiress by Lian at school gate with 2 resounding slaps, exposing Shinshi's years of flaunting wealth. Posts, clothes, bags, jewelry, all suspected to be charged to G-mom's credit card. The post was richly illustrated, even including excerpts from my morning recording and multi-angle videos of the confrontation at the school gate. Shinshi's remarks about poor relatives freeloading and her mother Wang Fengro's scheming about seizing family assets formed an extremely ironic contrast. The comment section was even more spectacular. 1L, holy shit, drama of the year. Shinshi's usual holier-than-thou act was just an act all along. 2L, that recording is disgusting. This whole family of leeches has such malicious hearts. 3L, Gigili is so cool. Those 2 slaps were so satisfying. I've always hated Shinshui's fake innocence. 4L, so Shinshui's designer brands, when you think about it, it's terrifying. Did she really buy them by swiping someone else's mom's card? 5L, seconded. I remember she posted a limited edition bag last week, saying her dad brought it back from abroad. But now that I think about it, wasn't her dad supposed to be a chauffeur? 6L. At Shinshui, care to explain, a housekeeper's daughter pretending to be a rich heiress, where's your shame? 7L, am I the only one who feels bad for Gigili, getting bullied like this by a housekeeper's daughter, and her own dad still plays favorites? 8L, Gigili used to be pretty low-key, right, guess she was pushed to her limit. 9L, I'd be furious too, who could stay calm when they're about to be killed? 10L, support Miss G in cleaning house, kick those bloodsuckers out. Public opinion overwhelmingly sided with me. Occasionally, a few die-hard fans of Shinshui or those unaware of the truth spoke up for her, but their voices were quickly drowned in a sea of criticism. Bullying the weak, sailing with the wind is human nature, especially in an environment like Sacred Sakura, when Shinshui's heiress halo was shattered, revealing her true identity as the housekeeper's daughter. As many people who had previously fawned over her now trampled on her, during recess. Shinshui wanted to go to the restroom. As soon as she stood up, she was deliberately bumped into by several girls who usually surrounded her. Oh, sorry, didn't see Miss High and Mighty here. One of the girls apologized exaggeratedly, her eyes full of disdain. Shinshui staggered, nearly falling, her face turning extremely unpleasant. A muffled snicker rippled through the surroundings. She clenched her teeth tightly, kept her head down, and rushed out of the classroom in quick strides. Her retreating figure looked panicked and disheveled. Lin Shushu wanted to follow her out but was pulled back by another girl. Shushu, why bother with her? Aren't you afraid of catching her poverty-stricken aura? Lin Shushu hesitated mid-step, glancing at the mocking looks around her, and ultimately didn't dare to follow. I sat in my seat, leisurely flipping through a book, watching everything unfold with cold indifference. Can't handle it already, Shinshui, in our past life. You basked in the limelight while even my breath was deemed wrong. How does it feel now? Chapter 5. The calm didn't last long. Just as the second class began, the classroom door was slammed open with a loud bang. Homeroom teacher Mr. Li walked in with a furrowed brow, followed by Shin Hongyuan, whose face was livid, and Shinshi, who had red, swollen eyes, timidly hiding behind him. Gigili, get your ass out here. Shin Hongyuan roared the moment he saw me. His voice echoing throughout the entire classroom. The gazes of my classmates focused on us again, brimming with excitement for the drama unfolding. Mr. Li's expression darkened. Mr. Shin, please mind the setting. Class is in session. Teacher Li, I'm sorry, but today I must ask this wretched girl what she thinks she's doing. Shin Hongyuan was clearly beside himself with anger, completely disregarding the setting. Pointing at the redness and swelling on Shinshi's face, he said to me with deep anguish. Look at what you've done to Shi. She's your cousin. How could you lay a hand on her? And what kind of nonsense have you been posting on the forum? Delete it immediately. Apologize to Shi. Shinshui seized the moment to let out a sob, shrinking behind Shin Hongyuan, playing the part of a bullied innocent flower. Watching this farce, my heart turned cold. This is my father, never distinguishing right from wrong, always siding with outsiders. I slowly stood up, my tone calm and steady. Dad. You want me to apologize? Fine, but before that, can you answer a few questions for me? Shin Hongyuan was taken aback, not expecting me to be so composed. What do you want to ask? First, I raised my index finger. Shinshi called me a poor relative here to sponge off others, claimed this car was hers, and publicly slandered me. How do we settle that score? She was just angry. You provoked her first. Just angry words, I sneered. Fine. Then what about her mother's threats in the recording, wanting to kill me and seize the family assets? Were those just angry words too? Shin Hongyuan's expression darkened, his eyes flickering uneasily. That recording, who knows if you fabricated it? Whether it's fabricated or not, reporting it to the police will reveal the truth. I shot back without backing down. Or should we just call Auntie over to confront her? Shin Hongyuan was left speechless, deep down. He knew the recording was likely genuine. He was well aware of Wang Fengro's true nature, but he simply didn't want to admit it, or rather, he wasn't willing to offend the woman who catered to his every comfort, especially not for my sake. Second, I extended my second finger. The Chanel Shinshui is wearing, the LV bag she carries, and the jade bracelet on her mother's wrist. Were they all bought using my mom's supplementary credit card? Dad, don't tell me you didn't know. The spending records for the supplementary card are sent to your email every month. Shin Hongyuan's forehead broke out in cold sweat. That was your mom's agreement to buy those things for them. We're all family. I interrupted him, my voice suddenly rising sharply. Who considers them family? My mom's last name is G, mine is G, yours is G. There's a Shin. They're just servants, understand. Living off the master's money, enjoying the master's lifestyle. And even plotting against the master's daughter. Since when does family behave like that? My accusations landed like hammer blows, striking deep into everyone's hearts. The classroom was eerily quiet. The classmates' gazes at Shin Hongyuan were filled with disdain and disbelief. How could there be such a muddle-headed, such a biased father in the world? Shin Hongyuan was left speechless by my question, his face turning beet red with anger and humiliation. This is rebellion. I'm your father. Can I not discipline you? Teacher Lee, look at this. This is the fine daughter I've raised. Teacher Lee frowned and was about to speak. I took a step forward, locking eyes with Shin Hongyuan, and enunciated each word clearly. Shin Hongyuan, listen well. From today onward, my affairs are none of your concern, and you have no right to meddle. You, Shin Hongyuan trembled with rage. Furthermore, I shifted my gaze to Shin Shi, who was cowering behind him. Curling my lips into a cruel smirk, since you care so deeply for your precious niece, take her and get the hell out of my house. This humble abode is too small to accommodate two such esteemed guests. Jijili, Shin Hongyuan erupted in fury, raising his hand as if to strike me. The entire class gasped in shock, yet I stood rooted to the spot, neither dodging nor avoiding, merely staring coldly at him. My eyes held not a trace of warmth, only bone-chilling coldness and disappointment. Shin Hongyuan's hand froze midair. He was stunned by my gaze. It didn't resemble the eyes of a 16-year-old girl. They contained too much he couldn't comprehend, icy hatred, and a mocking awareness that saw through everything. In the end, that hand never came down. He dropped his hand dejectedly, as if he had aged several years in an instant. His lips trembled, but not a single word came out. Mr. Shin, please calm down. Teacher Lee stepped forward at the right moment, positioning himself between us. This is a school. If there's an issue, please resolve it privately. Shin Hongyuan glared at me fiercely, his gaze filled with indescribable complexity, anger, humiliation, and perhaps even a trace of barely detectable panic. In the end, he said nothing, pulling Shin Shi, who was still sobbing, as they left the classroom in disgrace. Chapter 6, Shin Hongyuan and Shin Shi slunk away. But the atmosphere in the classroom remained unsettled for a long time. Teacher Lee glanced at me with a complicated look but ultimately didn't say much, only urging everyone to continue with the lesson. However, it was clear that few could focus. I sat back down, outwardly calm but inwardly racing through calculations. Shin Hongyuan suffered such a big humiliation in front of me today, and given his personality, he definitely won't let it go. He wouldn't dare to do anything to me, but he's most likely to go complain to my mom, or take his anger out on that family of leeches. No, he's more likely to be softened by Wang Fengro's sweet words and then turn his spearhead back toward me. I must strike while the iron is hot and take preemptive action before they can react. Thinking of this, I took out my phone, avoiding the teacher's line of sight, and quickly sent a long message to my mom's chief assistant, also her most trusted confidant, Aunt Lin. I concisely yet pointedly summarized today's events, including Shin Shi's public slander, Wang Fengro's recording, Shin Hongyuan's favoritism and threats. I especially emphasized Wang Fangru and her daughter's malicious intent to seize family assets and even harm me. I know my mom is at a crucial stage of expanding the market overseas and shouldn't be disturbed lightly, but Aunt Lin acts swiftly and decisively, and she's absolutely loyal to my mom. She knows exactly how to handle this. Within 5 minutes of sending the message, Aunt Lin replied with just a few concise words, Miss Geely, you did the right thing, don't worry, leave it to me. Reading this reply, a huge weight lifted off my heart. With Aunt Lin stepping in, the good days for Wang Fangru and her family are over. Sure enough, just as the first class of the afternoon ended, my phone vibrated. It was an unfamiliar local number. I walked to the end of the hallway and answered the call. Hello, Wang Fengrou's voice came through the phone, furious yet tinged with panic. Jijili, was this your doing? The property management just came and said they're taking back the villa. They even gave us until today to move out. How dare you? I replied leisurely. How dare I? Because the house bears the Ji surname, not Shin. Auntie Wang, you've worked as a nanny in our family for over a decade. Surely you understand basic etiquette. The owner decides who gets to live in their house and who doesn't. Do I really owe you an explanation? You little bitch. Does Han Yuan know about this? He would never agree. Wang Fangru screamed, dragging Shin Hongyuan into the argument. Go ahead and find him, I sneered. See whose words carry more weight now, his or mine. Also, a reminder, before you move out, leave behind what doesn't belong to you, like those clothes, bags, and jewelry bought with my mom's secondary card. Oh, and I remember a set of ruby jewelry left by my grandmother is missing from the safe. Unless you want me to involve the police, you'd better return it quietly." Juan Fumro's voice instantly trembled with panic. "Why, you're talking nonsense. What ruby jewelry? I don't know anything about it. Don't know." My voice turned icy. "Shall I retrieve the purchase records and safe access logs and hand them over to the police? Theft involving such a large sum could land your whole family in prison for years." The other end of the phone was dead silent, with only Juan Fumro's heavy, terrified gasps audible. After a long pause, she finally spoke as if drained of all strength, gritting her teeth. "Gigili, you're ruthless, not as ruthless as you and your daughter, who wouldn't hesitate to kill," I replied coldly. "Remember, get out of my house before sunset today, otherwise, I won't mind having the police help you move." With that, I hung up the phone directly, imagining Wang Fengrou's twisted expression and Shinxi's desperate cries on the other end of the line. A surge of satisfaction welled up inside me. This is just taking back a little interest. During the afternoon classes, I was unusually focused. Having lived a second life, I understand better than anyone the importance of knowledge and ability. The tragedy of my past life was not only due to the malice of Shinshi's family but also my own weakness and incompetence. In this life, I will become strong, inside and out. When the school bell rang, I packed my bag and walked out of the classroom unhurriedly. As expected, at the school gate, I saw the familiar Maybach again, but this time, only the driver stood beside the car, his face livid, along with Shinshi's father, my dear Uncle Shinfuchuan. He looked at me with complex emotions in his eyes, anger, resentment, but more than anything, a stifled frustration, unable to voice his rage. "Young mistress," he practically spat out the words through gritted teeth. I gave him a cold glance without saying a word, then pulled open the car door and got in. The car drove smoothly toward the villa district. Throughout the journey, Shinfuchuan remained silent, the atmosphere unbearably tense. Approaching the villa, I suddenly spoke up. "Uncle Shin." Shinfuchuan stiffened and glanced at me through the rearview mirror. "You've driven for my family for over a decade. If not merit, there's at least hard work," I said calmly. "So, as long as you behave, I can let bygones be bygones. You can keep your job." But my tone shifted sharply as I fixed a piercing gaze on his eyes reflected in the mirror. "If you still entertain improper thoughts or actions, don't blame me for disregarding past ties." Wang Fangru and Shinshui serve as examples. Shinfuchuan's hands gripping the steering wheel suddenly tightened, veins bulging on the back of his hands. His lips moved slightly, but in the end, he said nothing. Merely nodding dejectedly, I knew Shinfuchuan was far more sensible than his foolish wife and daughter. This level of intimidation was enough. For now, keeping him was safer than replacing him with a driver whose background was unknown. The car stopped at the villa's entrance. Unlike usual, the entrance was in complete disarray. Several large suitcases were haphazardly piled up. Wang Fangru stood with her hands on her hips, screeching at the property staff like a shrew, while Shinshui hid to the side, weeping quietly. A few neighbors stood around, whispering and pointing. Seeing me get out of the car, Wang Fangru looked as if she had spotted her father's murderer, baring her claws and teeth as she lunged forward. "Gigili, you damned little bitch, you'll die a horrible death." The property staff quickly held her back. I watched her tantrum coldly, my gaze sweeping over the suitcases and the scattered expensive-looking clothes and jewelry on the ground, among which was my grandmother's ruby set, carelessly stuffed into a bag. "Auntie Wang, it seems you've chosen to let the police handle this." I took out my phone, pretending to dial. Wang Fengrou's movements froze instantly, her face turning deathly pale. Don't call the police," she screamed, finally revealing fear. "We'll leave. We're leaving right now." She frantically stuffed those clearly not theirs luxury items into the suitcase, then shot me a venomous glare. That look was like a poisoned dagger. "Gigili, just you wait, this isn't over." "I'll be waiting," I smiled faintly, "but before that, you'd better find yourselves a place to stay. After all, with your own income, you probably can't afford a 5-star hotel anymore." Wang Fangru was so furious she nearly fainted, held back only by Shinfuchuan's tight grip. Shinshui raised her head, tears welling in her eyes as she glared at me with overflowing resentment. "Gigili, you'll regret this." "Regret?" I stepped closer, whispering words only she could hear. "Shinshui, the ones who'll regret are you. Everything you did to me in our past life, I'll reclaim it all, bit by bit. Just wait, this is only the beginning." Shinshui's pupils suddenly contracted, as if she had heard something utterly terrifying, staring at me in horror. I ignored them any further and nodded to the property staff. "Thank you for your hard work. Make sure they leave, from now on, without my permission. This family is not allowed to set foot in the neighborhood again. Understood, Miss G?" You can rest assured, amidst the neighbors' varied gazes and murmurs, I straightened my back and walked into the villa that had finally regained its tranquility. Behind me were Wang Feng's hysterical curses and Shenxi's desperate sobs. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, spilling onto the polished wooden floor. I took a deep breath. Finally, the air was free from that nauseating stench of hypocrisy and scheming. First obstacle cleared, but I know the battle is far from over. Wang Fengru and her daughter will never give up easily, and Shen Hongyuan remains a lurking threat. Moreover, those who harmed me in my past life weren't limited to just Shenxi's family. I took out my phone and looked at the number pinned at the top of the screen, labeled Mom. After hesitating for a moment, I still didn't dial it. Mom, just wait a little longer, wait until I've cleared out the parasites at home, until I have the strength to protect both you and myself. I'll show you a different Jijili. Chapter 7. After kicking Wang Fengru and her family out, the villa became much quieter. Shen Hongyuan indeed didn't come back that night, probably too ashamed to face me, or perhaps he went somewhere else to drown his sorrows in alcohol. I enjoyed the peace, made myself a simple meal, and started planning my next steps. My studies must not fall behind, they're the foundation of my future. In my previous life, Shenxi ruined my academic pursuits completely. This time, I'm determined to get into the best university. Secondly, I need to start paying attention to my mother's company's movements. In my past life, my mother fell into a business trap abroad, causing significant losses to the company. Shen Hongyuan and Wang Fengru colluded from inside and out, seizing power at the opportune moment, which was also one of the major reasons leading to the later tragedy. In this life, I must prepare for rainy days. Lastly, it's about dealing with those who harmed me in my past life. Shenxi is the first, but certainly not the last. As I was thinking, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, but the last few digits looked somewhat familiar. I frowned and answered the call. Hello, is this Jili? A gentle male voice came through the phone, carrying a hint of deliberate concern. Hearing this voice made my stomach churn. Gu Mingling, the man from my past life who kept professing his love for me. Yet when I was framed by Shenxi, and needed help the most, he didn't hesitate to side with Shenxi, even helping her slander me, and kick me while I was down. He was a classmate of mine and Shenxi's, coming from a well-off family, with a handsome appearance, and was one of the school's popular figures. In my past life, I had also been deceived by his hypocritical gentleness, thinking I had found true love, only to be utterly devastated by him. What do you want? My voice was as cold as ice. Gu Mingling seemed momentarily taken aback by my coldness but quickly adjusted his tone, speaking even more gently. Jili, I heard today that there was some unpleasantness between you and Shi. Are you okay? I'm really worried about you. Worried about me, more like worried about Shenxi, trying to fish for information or stand up for his Shi. I sneered inwardly but deliberately let a hint of grievance and vulnerability seep into my voice. I'm not okay, Mingling. Why did Sister Shi say those things about me? And Auntie, do they really hate me that much? Gu Mingling on the other end of the phone clearly didn't expect this reaction from me. After a few seconds of silence, he spoke in a sympathetic tone. Jili, don't be upset. I believe you're not that kind of person. There must be some misunderstanding here. She might have just acted impulsively, you know, deep down. She's actually very kind-hearted. Kind-hearted. I almost burst out laughing. Gu Mingling. Oh Gu Mingling, your blindness truly knows no bounds, unmatched in history. Really, I continued acting, my voice trembling with fake tears, but she humiliated me in front of everyone, and all the classmates laughed at me. The things people are saying on the forum are so cruel. Mingling, you're the only one I have now. I deliberately kept my words ambiguous. Sure enough, Gu Mingling's voice carried a hint of barely concealed smugness and calculation. He probably thought I was still as gullible as in my past life. Jili, don't be afraid. I'm here for you. How about I pick you up for school tomorrow? I'll accompany you, and let's see who dares to gossip about you. See, his true intentions are exposed. He wants to seize the chance to get closer to me, playing the role of a protective knight, on one hand, to comfort me, and on the other, to earn favor in front of Shenxi, showcasing his so-called charm and capability. Really, thank you, Mingling. I feigned delight, then hesitated, adopting a troubled tone. But, my family's driver, Uncle Shen, hasn't been in the best mood lately. I'm afraid he might. I deliberately brought up Shen Fuchuan, hinting at the changes happening in my household. Gu Mingling immediately tipped the bait. No problem. I'll have my family driver pick you up. It's settled then. Tomorrow morning at 7:30, I'll wait for you at the entrance of your neighborhood. Okay, see you tomorrow, I replied timidly. After hanging up, the vulnerability and distress on my face vanished instantly, replaced by icy mockery. Gu Mingling, since you've delivered yourself to my doorstep, don't blame me for dealing with you and Shenxi together. In your past life, weren't you two so fond of playing the tragic lovers? Well, this lifetime, I'll grant your wish, I'll give you a grand show of utter ruin. The next morning, I deliberately chose a simple yet exquisitely tailored dress and applied light makeup, looking pure yet with a hint of unapproachable aloofness. At exactly 7:30 a.m., I arrived at the neighborhood entrance. Gu Mingling was indeed waiting there, leaning against a flashy blue sports car, dressed in a white shirt with his hair meticulously styled, drawing frequent glances from passing girls. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he immediately flashed what he thought was a charming smile as he approached. "Jili, you look absolutely stunning today." I glanced at him indifferently, didn't respond, and simply opened the car door to sit in the passenger seat. Gu Mingling froze for a moment, seemingly surprised by my aloofness, but quickly adjusted his expression, got into the driver's seat, and started making small talk. "Nothing more than superficial pleasantries and faint concern," I responded half-heartedly, occasionally glancing out the window. Sure enough, at a corner, I spotted a familiar figure, Shinshi. She was hiding behind a tree, staring intently in our direction, her eyes burning with jealousy and resentment that seemed almost tangible. It seems Gu Mingling's act of picking me up wasn't kept secret from her, or perhaps he deliberately wanted her to see it. Interesting. A faint, almost imperceptible smile curled at the corner of my lips. When we arrived at school, Gu Mingling intentionally parked the car at the most conspicuous spot by the main gate. He then stepped out and opened the car door for me with exaggerated chivalry, even feigning intimacy as he reached to assist me. I deftly avoided his hand and exited the vehicle on my own, but this scene had already been witnessed by countless classmates who arrived early. Wow, did young Master Gu and Ji Jili come together? When did they become so close? Didn't young Master Gu always have feelings for Shinshi? Tisk, Shinshi is in such a state, yet young Master Gu still fancies her. Ji Jili is now a genuine wealthy heiress. Young Master Gu has sharp taste. Whispers and comments came pouring in. Gu Mingling listened to these remarks, a hint of smugness appearing on his face. This was exactly the effect he wanted, both to appease me and to declare to everyone that he, Gu Mingling, had chosen the more valuable Ji Jili. We walked side by side through the school gate, and I could feel countless gazes falling upon us, some curious, some envious, and that venomous stare coming from Shinshi's direction. As we approached the teaching building, Gu Mingling suddenly lowered his voice and spoke to me in a tone that feigned concern. "Jili, those posts on the forum, although she was wrong, making too big a deal of it isn't good for your family's reputation either. How about I talk to Shui for you and get her to apologize? Then you can delete the posts. After all, it's best to be merciful when you can. The truth is out." So this was his real intention, coming as Shinshi's mediator. I stopped walking and turned to look at him, wearing an innocent smile on my face. "Mingling, you're truly kind-hearted." Still thinking of Shi Jia, Gu Mingling thought I had agreed, and a look of joy had just appeared on his face, but then I abruptly changed the subject, speaking softly yet loud enough for the eavesdropping classmates around us to hear. "However, she and her mother both tried to kill me, and seize my family's wealth. Can that still be called a mistake? Shouldn't it be considered attempted murder? Tell me, should I forgive them, or would it be better to report them to the police?" Gu Mingling's smile froze instantly, his face turning alternately pale and flushed. A collective gasp echoed around us. "Call the police? Oh my god. Ji Jili is serious about this." Master Gu's attempt to mediate seems a bit misguided. Looks like Gu Mingling and Shinshi have an unusual relationship. Speaking up for her at a time like this, Gu Mingling was utterly humiliated by the surrounding gazes and whispers. He looked at me, his eyes filled with shock, anger, and scrutiny for the first time. It seemed he had finally realized that the Ji Jili standing before him was completely different from the gullible, spoiled young lady he remembered. I withdrew my smile and stared at him coldly. "Gu Mingling, my affairs are none of your concern. As for whatever dealings or affections you share with Shinshi, that's between the two of you. Don't drag me into it." Chapter 8. Having been thoroughly rebuffed by me, Gu Mingling wore a face as dark as storm clouds for the rest of the day. He had probably never been so thoroughly embarrassed in front of a woman before, and this is exactly the effect I wanted. After school, he indeed didn't approach me again. I enjoyed the peace and quiet, riding home in Shinfuchuen's car. Throughout the journey, Shinfuchuen was even more silent than yesterday, carrying a hint of barely noticeable fear. It seemed the reality of Wang Fangru and her daughter being kicked out had made him fully aware of the situation. In the evening, after finishing my homework, I logged into the campus forum again. As expected, the daytime uproar had spawned new threads. Some were discussing Gu Mingling's change of heart, others were analyzing just how wealthy my family was, and quite a few people tagged Shinshi, urging her to step forward and explain herself. Shinshi's account remained silent, as if it were dead, but I know she would never sit idly by. She and Wang Fangru must be like two venomous snakes now, flicking their tongues in the shadows. plotting how to retaliate against me. In that case, I don't mind adding fuel to the fire. I took out a spare phone and an anonymous account, then posted a carefully edited recording to the forum. The title was quite sensational. Solid proof. Listen to Yin Master Gu Tu timing, sweet-talking the real heiress while secretly messaging the fake one. The recording is an edited version of my morning call with Gu Minglang. My parts were removed, leaving only Gu Minglang's voice. Jili, don't be sad. I believe you're not that kind of person. She might have acted impulsively, you know, deep down, she's actually very kind-hearted. How about I pick you up for school tomorrow? I'll go with you. Let's see who dares to gossip about you then. Jili, those posts on the forum, although she was wrong, making such a big fuss isn't good for your family's reputation either. How about I talk to Shi for you and have her apologize? And you delete the posts, after all. It's better to forgive when possible. As soon as this recording surfaced, the forum exploded again. Holy crap, Gu Minglang's move is just too slick. This morning he was driving Ji Jili around, acting like her knight in shining armor, and now he's pleading for Shinshi. This is clearly trying to please both sides and play it safe. What a scumbag, a total scumbag. Does he think Ji Jili is a fool? It seems he really does have something going on with Shinshi. Ji Jili did great. She definitely didn't give him the time of day. Gu Minglang's persona has collapsed. I used to think he was handsome and devoted. The court of public opinion instantly turned its guns on Gu Minglang. His hypocritical gentleness and scheming were laid bare by this recording. While some might have envied him for winning me before, now there's nothing but condemnation. I watched the storm raging on the forum with satisfaction. Gu Minglang, you want to play? I'll play a big game with you. This is just the appetizer. Sure enough, it didn't take long before I received an infuriated call from Gu Minglang. The number was new, but the voice couldn't lie. Ji Jili, was it you? You actually recorded it. How despicable. He completely shed his gentle disguise, his voice filled with anger and panic. I said leisurely, Gu Minglang, are you afraid of people hearing your own words? Weren't those words spoken by you? Did I force you to say them? You? Gu Minglang was left speechless, gritting his teeth before finally spitting out, what exactly do you want? I don't want anything, I replied coldly. I just want you to face reality. Don't take me for a fool, and don't show your face around me again. It's disgusting. Ji Jili, don't get cocky. Who do you think you are? If it weren't for your family's money, I would never. What can you do? I interrupted him, my tone laced with sarcasm. Come and sweet talk this good-for-nothing young miss. Too bad. This good-for-nothing young miss isn't playing along anymore. You'd better go keep your kind-hearted Shinshi company, a pair of star-crossed lovers, a despicable couple. You two should stay locked together and stop ruining other people's lives. Chapter 9. After dealing with Gu Minglang, my life temporarily returned to peace. Shinshi took sick leave and didn't come to school. Gu Minglang also quieted down, avoiding me whenever we crossed paths on campus. The buzz on the forum gradually died down, but the way my classmates looked at me had shifted to one of awe. No one dared to provoke me so easily anymore. One day after school, I was surprised to find that Shin Hongyuan had actually come back. He sat on the living room sofa, the ashtray in front of him piled high with cigarette butts, his entire appearance looking haggard and disheveled. Seeing me enter, he raised his head with a complicated look in his eyes, opened his mouth as if wanting to say something, yet found it hard to speak. I ignored him and walked straight upstairs. Lily, he finally spoke, his voice hoarse. We need to talk. I stopped in my tracks, turned around, and looked at him coldly. Talk about what? About how you're helping your benefactor's family seek justice. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Shin Hongyuan's face as he rubbed his hands together, his tone deliberately conciliatory. Lily, Dad knows he was wrong before, believing one-sided accounts and making you suffer unfairly. Oh. Has the sun risen from the west? He's actually apologizing. I sneered inwardly but kept my expression neutral, and then, Shin Hongyuan, seeing my indifferent attitude, grew anxious. Dad has reflected on his mistakes. Fanru and Shi, they really went too far. Dad has already scolded them. Don't worry, from now on, Dad will definitely treat everyone fairly. Watching him eagerly pledging his loyalty, I couldn't help but find it laughable. He had said these exact words more than once in my past life. But every time, as soon as Wang Fanru shed a few tears and Shinshi pretended to be pitiful, he would immediately forget his promises. So what? I continued to ask. Shin Hongyuan leaned closer, lowering his voice with a tone of self-righteous concern for my sake. Lily, look, with the family in such turmoil, wouldn't it sound terrible if word got out? It wouldn't be good for your reputation either. How about you delete those posts on the forum first? Dad will make sure you come and apologize to you properly, and we can consider this matter settled. All right, after all, we're family. If things get too tense, wouldn't your mom worry if she found out overseas? The truth is out. After all this circling, it's still about pleading for Shinshui and her daughter, wanting me to delete the post and settle things quietly. Seeing the calculation and unease in his eyes, I suddenly understood. His eagerness to smooth things over isn't just about fearing my mother finding out. He's probably more afraid of the situation escalating and affecting his position and reputation at the company. After all, what kind of respect would a man command in the business world if he can't even handle family matters, letting a nanny bully his own daughter? Dad, I looked at him, my tone calm but icy. Do you think I'm particularly easy to fool? Shin Hongyuan stiffened. You? How could you say that about your father? Wang Fanru wants to kill me, and Shinshui wants to ruin me. In your eyes, is this just going too far? Can a simple apology make it go away? I stepped closer to him, my gaze burning with intensity. And stop bringing my mother into this. If she knew her daughter was almost killed, what do you think she would do? Shin Hongyuan retreated step by step under my questioning, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Lily, it's not that serious. They're just narrow-minded women who can't keep their mouths shut, I sneered, pulling out my phone and playing Wang Fengrou's recording aloud. Once we establish her as a poor, vain relative, everything from the Ji family will slowly become ours. Wang Fengrou's greedy and vicious voice echoed through the living room. Shin Hongyuan's face instantly turned deathly pale. Can't keep your mouth shut. I turned off the recording and glared coldly at him. Shin Hongyuan, I'll make myself clear today. The post, I won't delete it. An apology, I don't need one. Shinshui and Wang Fanru, I won't let them off. If you still want to be a father, know your place and stay away from that family of leeches. Otherwise, I paused, my gaze sweeping over his trembling hands. I wouldn't mind telling Aunt Lin to inform my mom that while she was away, her daughter almost lost her life. Who do you think my mom would believe, you or me? Shin Hongyuan collapsed completely onto the sofa, his face ashen. He knew I had grasped his Achilles heel. Everything he had came from my mother. If my mother were to find out about these things, his good days would be over. Lily, his lips trembled, but he couldn't form a complete sentence. I didn't look at him again and turned to go upstairs. I know today's conversation has temporarily subdued him, but a leopard can't change its spots. Especially someone like Shin Hongyuan, a phoenix man who's inherently insecure and greedy deep down. Given the chance, he'll likely turn back to Wang Fengrou's side. Chapter 10. Over the weekend, I received a call from Aunt Lin. Miss Jili, there's an important business cocktail party tomorrow evening that President Ji was supposed to attend, but he's tied up with an urgent meeting. The host company specifically requested someone from the Ji family to attend as a gesture of respect. Would you be available to represent President Ji? My heart skipped a beat. This was an opportunity, a chance to get early exposure to my mother's business connections and operations, and to demonstrate my standing as the eldest daughter of the Ji family to the outside world. No problem, Aunt Lin, just send me the time and location. Do I need to prepare anything? I agreed without hesitation. Great, I'll arrange the dress and stylist. There might be some reporters at the cocktail party, so just be mindful of your words and actions. The main thing is to make an appearance and represent Mr. G's importance. I'll handle the rest. Aunt Lin was very thorough in her arrangements. After hanging up, I felt a bit excited. In my past life, I was timid and introverted, dreading such occasions, but in this life, I'm determined to face challenges head-on. The next evening, the stylist and dress arranged by Aunt Lin arrived right on time. I chose a champagne-colored knee-length cocktail dress with a simple yet elegant design, not too mature, but with just the right touch of sophistication. The stylist gave me delicate, natural-looking makeup and loosely pinned up my long hair, revealing my slender neck. Staring at the girl in the mirror, cool and poised, with determined eyes, I could hardly recognize her as my past self. Perfect, Jijili, this is how you should be. The cocktail party was held in the grand ballroom of the most luxurious hotel downtown. When I walked in alone with my invitation, stepping into the dazzling, bustling venue filled with clinking glasses, I still drew a few curious glances. After all, I look too young, and I'm a new face. Many people were whispering, speculating about my identity. I took a deep breath, straightened my back, and with a proper smile on my face, walked calmly toward the organizer's representative. Aunt Lin had already made arrangements in advance. Hello, I'm Ji Jili, daughter of Ms. Ji Mingshu. My mother couldn't attend due to official business and has specially entrusted me to convey her sincere apologies and congratulations. I extended my hand gracefully, speaking in a poised and confident tone. The organizer's representative was a sharp-looking middle-aged man who appeared momentarily surprised but quickly shook my hand warmly. Miss Ji, you're too kind. Your presence is an honor for us. Like mother, like daughter, Miss G is so young yet radiates extraordinary elegance. After exchanging pleasantries, I accepted a glass of juice from a waiter and mingled politely on the sidelines. Though still somewhat unfamiliar with such occasions, I made sure to speak sparingly, listen attentively, maintain a smile, and carry myself with grace. Many were curious about my identity and approach to chat. I responded cautiously, deflecting questions about company matters with "I'm not very familiar with my mother's business affairs," and instead steered conversations toward academics and hobbies. This preserved an air of mystery while remaining courteous. I could sense that some gazes, which might have initially carried disdain or curiosity, gradually transformed into admiration and respect. They realized that I wasn't just Ji Mingshu's daughter. I myself represented an attitude and the future, however. There were always discordant notes. Well, look who's here, isn't this Miss G?" came a slightly frivolous voice. I turned my head and saw a young man dressed in a flashy pink suit, his hair slicked back, approaching with a glass in hand, eyeing me with ill intentions. Beside him trailed a few companions who looked every bit like spoiled rich kids. I recognize him, Zhao Ming, the son of the Zhao family. His family has some money, but he's known for being a good-for-nothing playboy. In my past life, he seemed to have pursued Shinshi, only to be strung along as her backup. "Mr. Zhao." I nodded faintly, not wanting to engage further. Zhao Ming took a step closer, reeking of alcohol, and lowered his voice with a flirtatious tone. "Miss G, I heard you've been causing quite a stir at home recently, even kicked the nanny out. Why bother? Women should be gentler, you know. Want me to teach you?" He didn't get to finish his sentence because I raised my hand and splashed the remaining juice in my glass onto his expensive pink suit. The movements were crisp and decisive, without any hesitation. "Ah!" Zhao Ming screamed, jumping up with his suit front soaked through, looking utterly disheveled. The surrounding chatter and laughter came to an abrupt halt as everyone turned to look. I set down the glass, picked up a napkin to wipe my hands, and fixed Zhao Ming with an icy stare. My voice was clear and carried an undeniable authority. "Watch your mouth, young Master Zhao. The Ji family isn't someone you can casually mock. If there's a next time, what gets splashed on your face won't be fruit juice." Zhao Ming's face turned red with anger as he pointed at me. "You, how dare you splash me?" His companions also closed in, their expressions unfriendly. The organizer's representative quickly stepped in to mediate. "Young Master Zhao, Miss Ji, it's all a misunderstanding." I turned to the representative, softening my tone but still maintaining a chill. "Mr. Li, I apologize for disrupting the party's atmosphere. However, when someone insults my mother and me with offensive remarks, I believe the Ji family cannot simply endure such humiliation. I'll take my leave now." Chapter 11. The incident of splashing juice on Zhao Ming at the cocktail party indeed spread quickly within the small circle. Just as expected, however, the direction of public opinion took some by surprise. Most people didn't perceive me as arrogant or domineering. Instead, they thought Zhao Ming deserved it. After all, he was the one who spoke rudely first, harassing an underage girl, who also happened to be the eldest daughter of the Ji family. Getting splashed with juice was practically letting him off easy. That Zhao Ming, what a spoiled brat, he's getting worse by the day. This young lady from the Ji family may look young, but she's got quite the temper, just like Chairman Ji in his day. That's exactly how it should be. How could some random nobody dare to tease the Ji family's heiress? It seems the Ji family won't fall into decline if it's handed over to this daughter in the future. These comments, relayed through Aunt Lin Lin and some well-meaning individuals, more or less found their way to my ears. I'm not surprised by this. In this circle, strength is ultimately what's admired. The tougher you appear, the more confidence you show, the less others dare to look down on you. In my past life, I kept yielding, which only made people think the Ji family was easy to bully, and my mother was looked down upon as well. Another matter brought me even greater satisfaction. After being sick for several days, Shinshi finally returned to school, but she clearly underestimated the power of gossip and overestimated her classmates' memory and kindness. When she entered the classroom, she deliberately wore old clothes, her face pale and her eyes slightly swollen, trying hard to create a fragile, poor little me vibe. In the past, many boys would have rushed to offer sympathy, and girls would have gathered around her to express concern, but today, the classroom was unusually quiet. Everyone looked at her with undisguised contempt, mockery, and even a hint of excitement for the drama. She headed toward her seat, only to find the words "Maid's daughter" scrawled across it in large chalk letters. Shinshi's face instantly turned deathly pale, her body swaying slightly. "Who did this?" she shrieked, her voice distorted with rage and humiliation. No one answered, only a few suppressed snickers could be heard. Lin Shushu sat not far away, her eyes darting nervously, too afraid to look at her. Shinshi suddenly turned her gaze towards me. I was leisurely flipping through a book, not even bothering to lift my eyelids. "Jijili, was it you?" She rushed to my desk like a madwoman, pointing at my nose. Only then did I slowly raise my head, looking at her calmly. Shinshi. What madness are you up to now, with your poor character and so many people you've offended? Who else can you blame? You. Shinshi trembled with rage, raising her hand as if to strike me. My gaze turned sharp as I coldly spat out 2 words, you dare. My hand was already poised over the phone's record button. Shinshi's hand froze midair, remembering the consequences of those 2 previous slaps and the power of recordings. She ultimately didn't dare to bring it down. The frustration of wanting to hit but not daring twisted her entire face with suppressed rage. Jijili, you've ruined my family like this. I hope you die a horrible death, she screamed hysterically, tears mingling with snot streaming down her face. Completely devoid of dignity, the surrounding classmates pointed and whispered, their comments utterly unguarded. Tisk, can't handle the truth, always acted like some pure white lotus before. Turns out her true face is this hideous. A maid's daughter will always be a maid's daughter, utterly lacking in class. I heard her family is renting some shabby place now. Is that true? Serves her right, she's got wicked intentions. These words stabbed Shinshi's heart like knives. The carefully crafted heiress persona she had painstakingly maintained had completely collapsed, revealing the ugly truth beneath. The sheer humiliation of falling from grace into the mud was 100 times more painful than any physical beating. Shinshui screamed hysterically, covering her face as she rushed out of the classroom. Chapter 12. After Shinshui ran out, she didn't return to the classroom for the entire day. When school ended, I unexpectedly saw an unimaginable scene at a secluded corner near the school gate. Gu Mingling and Shinshui were standing together. Shinshui was still sobbing, while Gu Mingling wore an impatient expression. Yet he suppressed it and whispered something to her. They were a bit too far away to hear clearly, but judging by Shinshui's occasional glances at Gu Mingling, filled with dependence and grievance, and Gu Mingling's condescending attempts to comfort her, anyone could guess what they were scheming. It seems that my recording not only shattered Gu Mingling's carefully crafted image but also pushed him straight into Shinshui's arms. Good riddance, a scumbag and a shameless woman. They deserve each other, let them stay together and stop tormenting others. I couldn't be bothered to pay them any more attention and was about to leave when I saw Gu Mingling slip Shinshui a note before hurrying away. Shinshui clutched the note tightly, watching Gu Mingling's retreating figure with a complex gaze, filled with resentment and grievance, but ultimately transforming into a trace of eerie ruthlessness and determination. Alarm bells went off in my head. They must be plotting something against me. Without alerting anyone, I quietly followed Shinshui. Instead of heading straight home, she took a winding path and entered a shabby, secluded little internet cafe. This kind of place was clearly not somewhere the former Miss Shin would have ever set foot in. Hiding at the alley entrance, I watched as she turned on a computer, carefully took out the note Gu Mingling had given her, and typed some website address into the computer while checking the note. She then began typing rapidly, her expression intense and almost ferocious. What was she doing? Posting defamatory content about me, or contacting someone shady? I quietly took photos of the internet cafe sign and Shinshui's profile with my phone, then quickly left. Once home, I immediately contacted Aunt Lin Lin and sent her the details and photos. Aunt Lin, help me check what Shinshui did at this internet cafe. Also, what was written on that note Gu Mingling gave her? I suspect they're about to make a move. Aunt Lin Lin replied quickly, don't worry, Miss Jili, leave it to me. I'll have someone look into it as soon as possible. With Aunt Lin Lin stepping in, I felt slightly more at ease, but my inner vigilance didn't diminish in the slightest. Open attacks are easy to dodge, but hidden arrows are hard to guard against. Shinshui and Gu Mingling are now like stray dogs driven to desperation, and they might resort to extreme measures. Chapter 13. Aunt Lin Lin worked with remarkable efficiency. By the next afternoon, she had already given me a reply, the contents of which sent chills down my spine and ignited a burning rage within me. Miss Jili, we've found something. Shinshui logged into an encrypted overseas chat application at an internet cafe and contacted someone with the screen name Viper. According to the chat log screenshots, Shinshui paid a sum of money to hire this Viper to ruin your innocence and take compromising photos and videos during next week's school trip to the suburban practice base, aiming to completely tarnish your reputation. My fingers suddenly clenched tightly, nails digging deep into my palms. Destroy my innocence, take photos and videos. Shinshui, Gu Mingling, how could you be so vicious? The tragic death in my past life and this nearly successful poisonous scheme in this life intertwined, making my blood almost freeze with boundless hatred surging like molten lava. Aunt Lin Lin's voice was also filled with suppressed anger. Also, that note was written by Gu Mingling. It contained a Bitcoin wallet address and part of the deposit. It seems Gu Mingling isn't just aware of this. He's likely the one funding and orchestrating it. Good, very good, Gu Mingling. Just because I saw through your true colors and humiliated you, you resort to such despicable means to ruin me, Shinshi. Just because you lost your privileged life and false glamour, you want to subject me to torment worse than death. You despicable couple are utterly unworthy of being called human, Miss Jili. We've already reported this to the police. They're taking it very seriously and have deployed personnel to make an arrest on the spot regarding this matter. Do you think we should inform COG? Aunt Linlin inquired. Don't tell my mom yet. I immediately stopped her. She's at a critical stage right now. We can't distract her, Aunt Lin. We need to cooperate fully with the police. But just catching that viper and obtaining evidence that Shinshi and Gu Minglang hired thugs isn't enough. My gaze was as cold as a blade. What I want isn't simply sending them to juvenile detention or having them detained for a few days. What I want is to utterly ruin their reputation, leaving them with no chance of recovery, to make them taste the bitterness of being despised by everyone, driven into a corner with no way out. Aunt Lin, help me with a few things. I lowered my voice and revealed my plan to Aunt Linlin. Since they've set their trap, I'll lay an even bigger one right on top of theirs. Shinshi, Gu Minglang, didn't you want to ruin my reputation? Then let me show you what it means to be hoist with your own petard. Chapter 14. A week later, the school-organized suburban practice-base activity arrived as scheduled. Before departure, I clearly sensed the excitement and malice barely concealed in Shinshi and Gu Minglang's gazes toward me, especially Shinshi, though she tried hard to hide it. The glint in her eyes was like a venomous snake spotting its prey. I sneered inwardly but maintained a composed facade, even deliberately showing some anticipation and relaxation about the event in front of them. On the bus, I sat alone, wearing headphones and listening to music with my eyes closed, seemingly resting. In reality, the earbuds concealed the miniature communicator Aunt Linlin had given me. Miss Jili, everything is in place. The police have infiltrated the base staff. Viper and his 2 accomplices have also arrived and are scouting near the abandoned warehouse at the back of the base. Special teams are monitoring Shinshi and Gu Minglang. Aunt Linlin's steady voice came through. Copy that. I responded softly, curling my lips into a cold smile. The show is about to begin. The activities at the practice base are very diverse, including farming experiences, outdoor adventures, team-building games, and more. I participated actively and behaved as usual. Shinshi and Gu Minglang, however, seemed somewhat distracted, occasionally glancing at me or exchanging meaningful looks in the crowd that only they understood. The afternoon was free time, allowing us to explore the base or rest in the dormitory. I deliberately walked alone toward the relatively secluded back hill of the base, where there was a small garden with pleasant scenery. Sure enough, not far along, I caught sight of Shinshi stealthily following me from the corner of my eye. Meanwhile, Gu Minglang pretended to take photos nearby, keeping watch instead. The fish has taken the bait. I walked deep into the small garden, where the shade of lush trees created a quiet, secluded spot with few people around. Shinshi quickened her pace to catch up, wearing a hypocritical smile. Jili, dear, taking a stroll alone. I stopped and turned to face her. What do you want? Shinshi approached, lowering her voice but unable to conceal the malice in her tone. Nothing much. I just thought the environment here was nice and wanted to have a private chat with you. Little sister, what could we possibly have to talk about? I feigned wariness and took a step back. Let's talk about your future. Shinshi's smile twisted into something sinister. Gee, Jili, you think you've won, kicking me out of your house and humiliating me at school. Let me tell you, you're celebrating too soon. Today, I'll return everything you've done to me 100-fold. As soon as she finished speaking, 3 sleazy-looking, lecherous men emerged from the bushes nearby, none other than Viper and his accomplices from the photos. They were holding ropes and duct tape, closing in on me with ill intentions. What do you want? I panicked and shouted, while pressing the recording button on my phone in my pocket and the pre-prepared alarm. What do we want? Shinshi laughed triumphantly. Of course, it's to serve our esteemed Miss G properly. Once we capture your wonderful photos and videos, let's see how you can still act so arrogant. Soon, the whole school, no, the entire city, will get to admire your disgrace. Gee, Jili, you're finished. The 3 thugs leered as they closed in. At this critical moment, police, freeze, get down, hands on your head. Several sharp shots suddenly rang out from all directions. Plainclothes officers who had been lying in ambush nearby descended like divine soldiers, swiftly rushing forward and subduing the 3 thugs, who hadn't even had time to react, onto the ground in mere moments. Shinshi's smile instantly froze, transforming into sheer terror and disbelief. And no, impossible. How could you? Gu Mingling also ran out from his hiding spot. Seeing the scene, his face instantly turned as pale as paper, and he turned to flee, only to be stopped by two other police officers. Gu Mingling, Shenxi, you are suspected of hiring someone to commit assault. Come with us. The lead officer showed his badge, speaking sternly. No, it wasn't me. Jijili framed me. Shenxi screamed hysterically, struggling violently. Gu Mingling also babbled incoherently in defense. Officer, it's a misunderstanding. All a misunderstanding. It was Shenxi's idea. I had nothing to do with it. I watched their despicable display of mutual betrayal with nothing but profound irony. I walked up to Shenxi, whose face was ashen, trembling like a sieve, and whispered icily, loud enough only for the two of us to hear, Shenxi, did you really think you'd won, the moment you stepped into that internet cafe? You'd already lost, trying to outplay me. You're still too green. Shenxi jerked her head up, glaring at me with eyes full of despair and frenzied hatred. Jijili, you'll die a horrible death. I'll haunt you even as a ghost. Don't worry. I smiled faintly, though my gaze was piercingly cold. Before you become a ghost, I'll make sure you first experience a living hell. The police took away Shenxi, who was cursing wildly, and Gu Mingling, whose face was ashen, along with the three thugs. Chapter 15. The news of Shenxi and Gu Mingling being taken away by the police spread like wildfire throughout the training base, then swept through the school and the entire social circle at an even faster pace, hiring thugs to ruin someone's reputation. Such despicable behavior. Everyone was shocked by the shamelessness and cruelty of this despicable couple. The forum completely collapsed, with endless posts exposing scandals, condemning, and cursing. Those who had previously held even a shred of sympathy for Shenxi or thought I had gone too far now all turned their guns around. My God, hiring someone to commit rape. What kind of person does that? Are Shenxi and Gu Mingling insane? This is pure evil. Support Jijili. Lock up these scumbags. How could the Gu family raise such a son? Shenxi's parenting. Truly, birds of a feather flock together. Let's see how they try to talk their way out of this one. Public opinion overwhelmingly supported me while condemning Shenxi and Gu Mingling. Everyone believed they were surely finished this time, with juvenile detention or prison being unavoidable. Even the school quickly issued a statement, expressing deep concern over the incident and promising to handle the involved students severely based on police investigation results and school regulations. Everything seemed to be moving in a satisfying direction. However, I wasn't as optimistic as others. I knew the Gu and Shen families would never stand idly by. They would surely find a way to bail him out. Sure enough, 3 days later, shocking news arrived. Shenxi and Gu Mingling have been released on bail. The reasons given were flaws in the chain of evidence, both being minors showing remorse, and the Gu family leveraging significant connections and financial resources to pay an enormous bail amount, ultimately securing their release pending trial. This news was like dropping a massive boulder into an already boiling pot of oil, igniting even greater public outrage. WTF, they can still get bailed out. Does money really mean you can do whatever you want? Flaws in the chain of evidence, signs of remorse. Who are they trying to fool? Where is justice? If they escape punishment, what kind of law will we have left? Jijili suffered so much, almost ruined. Yet the perpetrators walk free. Countless people voiced their outrage for me, casting doubt on judicial fairness. However, what was even more jaw-dropping, and utterly shattered one's moral compass, was yet to come. On the very next day after being released on bail, the Gu and Shen families jointly issued a statement, or rather, a piece of happy news. The gist of the statement was, Gu Mingling and Shenxi grew up together and were deeply in love, though they made grave mistakes due to youthful impulsiveness. Their feelings were genuine. After this incident, both families decided to let bygones be bygones and arranged an engagement for the two. They hoped love and responsibility would guide them onto the right path and earnestly requested society to give the young couple a chance to turn over a new leaf, and so on. Attached was a so-called engagement photo of Gu Mingling and Shenxi. In the picture, Shenxi wore a cheap white dress while Gu Mingling had his arm around her shoulder. Both forced smiles and avoided eye contact, making the scene appear utterly absurd and ironic. Engagement. After being accused of attempted rape by hiring a hitman, not only was he bailed out, but he also immediately announced his engagement. This move has truly redefined the lower limits of shamelessness, using an engagement to divert attention and garner sympathy, attempting to twist a vicious criminal case into some young people acting impulsively for love farce. The forums and social media platforms have completely exploded. I'm sick. Literally sick. What kind of idiot is this? Engagement, more like a fucking alliance, afraid the other might rat them out. Is the Gu family sacrificing the pawn to save the king, realizing their son's reputation is beyond saving, so they're tying him to Shenxi to sink together? Ugh, mutual affection, more like partners in crime. These two deserve each other. Please stay together and stop tormenting others. How tragic for Jijili. The victim has to watch the perpetrator get engaged. What kind of world is this? Everyone was disgusted by this shameless move and felt even more sympathy for my plight. Even I couldn't help but admire the audacity of the Gu family and Wang Fangru. To protect their own interests, they've truly discarded even the last shred of decency. Shen Hongyuan also saw the news. His expression kept changing as he secretly glanced at me, seemingly wanting to say something. But under my icy gaze, he didn't dare utter a word. Right now, he's terrified of upsetting me. Afraid I might expose everything to my mother, I looked at the glaring engagement news on my phone and the photo of Shen Shi's forced smile that couldn't conceal the venom in her eyes. Instead of getting angry, I laughed. Truly, you refuse the path to heaven yet insist on barging through the gates of hell. Originally, if you had obediently surrendered to justice and accepted judgment, you might have retained some dignity, but now, you've chosen the most foolish, most provocative way to challenge public decency. Then don't blame me for tearing off your last shred of decency. Let everyone see clearly what truly hideous faces lie beneath the skin of you 2-inch perfectly matched fiancés. Engagement banquet. Ha, I'll give you a gift you'll never forget for the rest of your lives. Chapter 16, The Gu and Shen Families. Perhaps to bolster their presence or to quickly solidify this relationship. Held the engagement banquet quite hastily, just 1 week after they were released on bail. The venue was chosen at a medium-sized banquet hall in a 3-star hotel, which, by the Gu family's usual standards, was rather shabby. It seemed that although the Gu family had managed to protect their son, they had suffered significant losses and were not particularly pleased with this in-law family or their future daughter-in-law. Despite this, the highly anticipated engagement banquet still attracted quite a few guests. Some were genuinely there to enjoy the spectacle, unbothered by the drama, relatives of the Gu family or business partners who felt obliged to attend despite their reluctance. There were also numerous gossip reporters who had caught wind of the event, stationed at the hotel entrance with their cameras and equipment, creating a spectacle even grander than a celebrity welcome. As for me, Jijili, the so-called leading lady of this farce, I was naturally on the guest list as well. The invitation was personally delivered by Wang Fangru. She stood at the gate of the villa, unable to enter, and could only shout at the top of her lungs, her face plastered with a fake smile. Jili, dear, it was all your aunt's fault before. She knows she was wrong too. She and Mingling are truly in love. Please be magnanimous and come to their engagement party. Consider it your blessing to them. I watched her disgusting face on the surveillance footage and immediately had security escort her out, but of course I'll go. How could I miss such a spectacular scene? On the day of the engagement party, I deliberately arrived a little late. When I appeared alone at the entrance of the banquet hall in a low-key yet undeniably elegant black cocktail dress, the previously lively scene fell silent for a moment. All eyes turned toward me in unison, some held sympathy, others curiosity or scrutiny, and still others the excitement of anticipating a spectacle. Today, I hadn't dressed up deliberately, but the icy aura and commanding presence I'd cultivated since my rebirth made me stand out effortlessly among the crowd. In contrast, the supposed stars of the banquet hall, Shen Shi and Gu Minglang, appeared utterly dull and awkward. Shen Shi was wearing an obviously ill-fitting, even somewhat old white dress, her face caked with thick powder that couldn't conceal her haggardness and pallor. She struggled to force a smile, but it looked more painful than tears. Gu Minglang, on the other hand, wore a tight-fitting suit, his face gloomy and his eyes evasive, completely avoiding my gaze. He exuded an air of decadence and hostility. Wang Fangru and Shen Fuchuan stood to the side, dressed in inappropriately bright clothes, forcing smiles as they greeted the sparse number of guests, appearing utterly ridiculous. Gu Minglang's parents sat stiffly at the head table, their faces ashen, clearly feeling immense shame over this engagement banquet and their new in-laws. My arrival was like a stone thrown into stagnant water, sending ripples through the scene. Whispers arose. Jijili actually came. She looks so composed, such strong presence. The contrast is brutal. Shen Shi looks like a complete clown next to her. The Gu family must be blind, rejecting a real phoenix to marry a maid's daughter. Shoo, keep your voice down. Ignoring these whispers, I walked straight toward the front of the banquet hall. When Wang Fangru saw me, a flicker of panic crossed her face, but she forced herself to approach me nonetheless. With a stiff smile, she said, Jili, you're here. Please, have a seat. I ignored her, my gaze directly landing on Shen Shi and Gu Minglang. Shen Shi squirmed uncomfortably under my stare, instinctively shrinking behind Gu Minglang. Gu Minglang, meanwhile, stiffened his neck and growled weakly, Jili, what are you doing here? You're not welcome, I smiled faintly, though the warmth didn't reach my eyes, my voice ringing clearly through the banquet hall. I'm here, of course, to deliver a wedding gift to my dear cousin and young Master Gu. Two hearts beating as one, truly in love. Everyone pricked up their ears, and even the journalists' cameras turned toward me. Shen Shi and Gu Minglang's faces showed expressions of horror. They had a bad premonition. Wang Fangru hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Jili, There's no need for gifts, your presence alone is. I raised my hand to stop her, then took out an exquisite USB drive from my clutch and held it up high. This congratulatory gift is a wonderful video compilation. It documents the entire journey of the two of you, from childhood sweethearts, to love turning into resentment, then to reconciliation, and finally becoming lifelong partners. I paused, my gaze sweeping over the curious faces in the room before finally settling on the pale, terrified expressions of Shinshi and Gu Minglang. Word by word, I pronounced, especially, about how you mutually fell in love and conspired to hire Viper, planning to destroy, at the training base, my detailed account of events. As my words fell, silence engulfed the room. You could hear a pin drop. Chapter 17. No, you're lying. That's fake. Shinshi let out a piercing scream and tried to rush forward to snatch the USB drive. Gu Minglang was also completely panicked, shouting, "Stop her. She's insane, she's framing us," but it was already too late. The staff members I had arranged beforehand immediately stepped forward, took the USB drive, and connected it to the banquet hall's projection equipment with lightning speed. Instantly, the massive screen began playing a series of edited yet key information complete video clips and screenshots of chat records. There's surveillance footage of Shinshi logging into foreign software at a rundown internet cafe. There's a close-up of her bargaining with Viper, detailing specific action plans in their chat records. There's a close-up of Gu Minglang handing Shinshi a note, along with the Bitcoin address and amount written on it. And there's an audio clip of Gu Minglang and Shinshi conspiring in a corner afterward, shifting blame onto each other. The evidence is irrefutable, clearer than any previous rumors. Irrefutable evidence was laid bare before all the guests and reporters. The banquet hall first fell into deathly silence, then erupted with massive uproar and furious condemnation. My God, it's really them. The chat logs are so disgusting. They even discussed the specific details. Gu Minglang even paid money. Scumbag. Still pretending to be innocent just now. Disgusting. Call the police. Call the police now. The reporters frantically clicked their shutters, capturing this shocking twist, along with the deathly pale, utterly devastated expressions of the newlyweds on stage. Gu Mingling's parents suddenly stood up, their faces turning from livid to deathly pale, their bodies swaying as if about to faint. They never expected their son to have left behind such irrefutable evidence. The Gu family's reputation was utterly ruined today. Wang Fanru collapsed onto the floor, wailing while slapping her thighs. It's fake, all of it is fake. Ji Zhili, you deserve to die a horrible death. Shinshi completely broke down, pointing at Gu Minglang and shrieking, "It was you forced me into this. You said as long as Ji Zhili was ruined, the Gu family would accept me. This was all your idea." Gu Minglang's eyes also turned red with rage as he shoved Shinshi away. "Bullshit. It was you slut, who seduced me. You said as long as I helped you, I'd get half of the Ji family's fortune. Dog bites dog. Both end up with mouths full of fur." The scene spiraled completely out of control at that moment. The banquet hall doors swung open, and several uniformed police officers strode in with stern expressions. "Shinshi, Gu Minglang, you are suspected of hiring assailants to commit harm. New crucial evidence has emerged. Please come with us for further investigation. Here is the detention warrant." Cold handcuffs snapped shut around the wrists of this newly engaged couple, amid countless camera flashes and contemptuous gazes. Amidst the desperate cries and curses from both sets of parents, Shinshi and Gu Minglang were dragged out of the banquet hall by the police like two dead dogs. Chapter 18. The scene of Shinshi and Gu Minglang being handcuffed and taken away by the police during their engagement banquet became the hottest topic across major media outlets and social platforms for the following week. The evidence was irrefutable, and public outrage surged like tidal waves. This time, even with all their connections and wealth, the Gu family could no longer turn the tide. After this incident, Shin Hongyuan became completely subdued. He understood better than anyone that the current me was no longer the daughter he could control or even comprehend. He became extremely cautious, even somewhat ingratiating towards me, terrified that I might one day reveal his disgraceful role in the events to my mother. Shinshi and Gu Minglang were imprisoned. Wang Fanru returned to her hometown in madness, and the poor relatives in the house were thoroughly purged. The villa regained its rightful tranquility and luxury. But beneath this calmness surged an indescribable undercurrent. The most restless of all was my father, Shin Hongyuan. He was like a startled bird, tiptoeing around the house as if walking on eggshells. Every time he saw me, his eyes were filled with complex emotions, remnants of the embarrassment of a father who had lost all authority, fear of my current methods, and a deep-seated terror of being held accountable. He tried to curry favor with me. He no longer dared to put on the airs of "I'm your father" as he used to, nor did he dare mention anything about forgiveness or family, because he knew better than anyone that from the moment he blindly took one fangirl in her daughter's side, allowing, even encouraging, them to bully me, whatever thin thread of father-daughter bond we had was completely severed. The reason he could still live peacefully in this villa wasn't because he remained the master of the house, but because of my temporary non-pursuit. This awareness was like a thorn, piercing his heart day and night. However, the judgment of fate would not be delayed by his unease. A month later, Ji Mingshu, his mother, concluded crucial negotiations abroad and returned, weary from her journey. On the day of her return, she didn't inform Shin Hongyuan and went straight home. It was evening at the time. Shin Hongyuan was sitting on the sofa, restlessly staring at the TV without actually absorbing anything. When I walked into the living room arm in arm with Mom, he was so startled that he leaped up from the sofa, his face instantly turning pale, and the remote control slipped from his hand with a clatter. Mingshu, you're back," he stammered, his hands and feet fidgeting awkwardly, unsure where to place them. Mother Ji Mingshu was dressed in a crisp professional suit. The exhaustion of her long flight unable to mask the sharpness and coldness in her eyes, she didn't look at Shin Hongyuan first, but instead scanned the long unseen, now finally peaceful home, before slowly turning her gaze to Shin Hongyuan. That gaze held no joy of reunion, no warmth between spouses, only an abyss of chilling coldness and utter disappointment. If I didn't come back, was I supposed to wait until my daughter was harmed with no one to protect her? Mother's voice wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of 1,000 pounds. Crashing down on Shin Hongyuan's heart, Shin Hongyuan trembled all over, beads of cold sweat instantly forming on his forehead. "Mingshu, let me explain. It wasn't like that. It was Lily who, she was also at fault." "Enough," Mom sharply cut him off, her gaze as sharp as a knife. "Shin Hongyuan, even now, you still want to shift the blame onto Lily. The malicious things one fangirl and her daughter did, the recordings, the evidence. Lin has told me everything in detail, and you, as her father, what did you do at the time? Not only did you fail to protect your daughter, but you also sided with outsiders to bully her, forcing her to apologize to that nanny's daughter who wanted to harm her. Have you no conscience at all?" Mom's pent-up anger and disappointment erupted like a volcano, each word lashing at Shin Hongyuan like a whip. Shin Hongyuan was left speechless by the scolding, his face flushed red. He staggered back 2 steps and collapsed onto the sofa, covering his face with his hands. I was confused at the time, Fong Ro and the others, after all. He still wanted to make excuses. After all what? After all, they served you comfortably, Mom sneered, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Shin Hongyuan, I must have been blind back then. I thought that even though you were mediocre in ability, at least you weren't inherently bad and could take responsibility for the family. Now it seems you're not just incompetent, but also foolish, selfish, and incapable of distinguishing right from wrong. You don't deserve to be a husband, let alone a father." These words completely shattered Shin Hongyuan's last shred of pretense and self-respect. He suddenly raised his head, his eyes bloodshot, filled with a reckless agitation. "Yes, I'm incompetent. I rely on you, Ji Mingshu, but I'm also a man. What status do I have left in this family? Even the servants dare to walk all over me. So you allowed outsiders to bully your own daughter just to reclaim your pathetic status and dignity." Mom's gaze had turned icy cold. "Shin Hongyuan, you're truly pitiful and laughable." Mom didn't look at him anymore, as if even one more glance would be too filthy. She turned to me, her eyes instantly softening with heartache. "Lily, I'm sorry. Mom came back too late and let you suffer so much." I shook my head and held Mom's hand. "Mom, I'm fine. It's all in the past." Mom patted the back of my hand, then looked again at Shin Hongyuan, whose face was ashen. Her tone regained the decisiveness and coldness of the business world. "Shin Hongyuan, let's get a divorce." Shin Hongyuan jerked his head up, his eyes filled with disbelief and panic. "No, Mingshu, we can't divorce. I know I was wrong. Give me another chance." Divorce? He absolutely couldn't get divorced. Without Ji Mingshu, Shin Hongyuan was nothing. He would lose his current privileged life, lose the flattery of others, lose everything. Chance? Mom sounded like she'd heard a joke. "I've given you too many chances. From the moment you started favoring your poor relatives time and again. I warned you, but you only got worse. This time, you nearly killed my daughter. There's no room for negotiation." Mom pulled out a pre-prepared divorce agreement from her briefcase and threw it onto the coffee table. "Read the agreement. Given your failure to fulfill your duties as a husband and father during the marriage, and the severe psychological harm you've caused our daughter, in terms of asset division, you'll only get the small apartment in the suburbs and a modest alimony sufficient for basic living. You have no right to touch the company's shares or major assets. Sign it, and we'll handle the formalities tomorrow. Mom's arrangements were decisive and clean-cut. Without the slightest hesitation, she had completely given up on this man. Shin Hong-yuan looked at the agreement, his hands trembling violently. That meager amount of assets was nothing short of humiliation for someone accustomed to a life of luxury. He fell to his knees with a thud, tears streaming down his face as he clung to Mom's leg. Mingshu, I beg you, for the sake of our years as husband and wife, I can't get divorced. If we divorce, I'm finished. Mom pulled her leg away in disgust, her eyes showing not a trace of emotion. Years as husband and wife. Shin Hong-yuan, when you helped outsiders bully Lily, did you ever think about our years of marital affection, when you enjoyed everything I fought tooth and nail for? Yet allowed others to scheme against us, mother and daughter. Did you ever think about this family, Lin? Mom called out. Aunt Lin, who had been waiting outside the door, immediately entered with 2 bodyguards. Please escort Mr. Shin out. Don't let him set foot in here again until he signs, Mom ordered coldly. Yes, President Ji. The bodyguard stepped forward and unceremoniously lifted Shin Hong-yuan, who had collapsed on the ground, limp as mud, and dragged him out of the villa. Mingshu, Lily, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. I beg you. Shin Hong-yuan's desperate cries gradually faded into the distance, eventually disappearing into the night. The living room returned to silence. Mom wearily rubbed her temples, then hugged me tightly. Lily, from now on it's just the 2 of us, mother and daughter. Mom will protect you and never let anyone hurt you again. I hugged my mother back, feeling her warm embrace and steadfast strength. Mom, I'll protect you too. I'll become so strong that no one can ever hurt us again. From this moment on, that biased, cowardly, and unjust Phoenix Man father was completely erased from our lives. He lost his marriage, his wealth, his family, and the last shred of his dignity. For the rest of his life, he could only cling to his pitiful possessions, tasting the bitter fruits of his own actions amidst regret and the mockery of others. And this is